Greetings, this is Richard. It is Sunday, October 18th, 2020, and I'm going to do a little demonstration here on how camera exposure affects what you can see on the moon when you're photographing it. Now, obviously I'm shooting a video, but the settings are similar. I'm using a Canon EOS R camera with a Canon 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 Series 3 L lens, and my current settings right now are ISO 1600 f2.8 at a shutter speed of 1/1000th of a second. My focal length is about 120 millimeters. And what I'm going to start doing is lowering the shutter speed. So again, this is 1,000th of a second, and we can make out craters pretty good on the moon. There's 500th of a second, 1/250th of a second, 1/125th of a second, 1/60th of a second, 1/30th of a second, and 1/15th of a second. Now we kind of start seeing the trees at the horizon. Drop down to 1/8 of a second. Now we can see the trees pretty good, and we're getting some really good earth shine. This is light reflected off of the earth, and it illuminates the part of the moon that we can't normally see. I can actually see it very clearly with my eyes right now. So adjusting the shutter speed and the aperture and the ISO on the camera can affect whether that part of the moon is visible or not. I'm going to go back to 1/125th of a second. We can't see it. 1/8 of a second, we can see it very clearly. Again, 1/8 of a second, f2.8, ISO 1600. I'm going to bump up the ISO a notch to 3200. Now we see it very well, but obviously the moon, the illuminated part of the moon, is very overexposed. Go up to ISO 6400. And then ISO 12800. Now it almost looks like a full moon. So this is how drastically all of these camera settings affect the exposure of the moon. Now I can leave it on ISO 1200. You probably see the video is very grainy right now, but I can start lowering my shutter speed and get back to where I was. So there's a 15th of a second, 30th of a second, 60th of a second, 1/25th of a second, 250th of a second. Yep, okay, now we've lost the earth shine. So again, 1/250th of a second, f2.8, ISO 12800. I'm going to drop the ISO back down to 1600. I'm going to run my shutter speed back down to 1/8 of a second. We're right back where we were. So I hope that helps.